That's my test.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out for the keynote presentation for the 2026 Martin Luther King Jr. Day Commemoration, Love in Action. My name is Jake Marion. I'm one of the directors for Equity and Belonging here at the College of Wooster. But before we get started, I do want to take a moment to just thank everybody who has been involved with planning today's activities. This event could not have been possible without the support and hard work from our peers in marketing and communication, events, and creative dining. We'd also like to take a moment to thank all of our speakers and presenters today. We had presentations and remarks from staff, faculty, campus partners, and most importantly, Wooster students, as we reflected and explored what it means to pursue equity, justice, service, and love in action. Can we take a moment just to thank everyone who was involved with the organizing for today's event? Additionally, if I may just personally take a moment, I'd like to thank and extend tremendous gratitude to my co-director of Equity and Belonging, Kayla Campbell, the Equity and Belonging Program Coordinator, Hannah Rakowski, and Vice President for People, Culture, and Talent, Lynn Hillis. The three of you are steadfast in your support, and I am forever grateful for our little team. Finally, although this is the last college-sponsored event for the day, there are still ways to explore what it means to put love into action throughout the week. The Long Break Wellness Center is once again hosting a hygiene drive for 180 and will be accepting donations through the end of the week. Donations can be dropped off either at the Long Break Wellness Center or a box in front of the Center for Belonging and Intercultural Dialogue on the second floor of Lowry. The Worcester Volunteer Network is continuing to host an MLK edition of Soup and Bread this Wednesday. This year's donations will once again be going towards student lunch debt relief at Worcester City Schools, a project that truly embodies Soup and Bread's motto of eating simply so others can simply eat. As we did the same project last year and raised over $12,000 that went towards student lunch debt relief for local school districts, so we're excited to do that again. And then last but certainly not least, tonight at 7 p.m. at First Presbyterian Church, just down the street, the Worcester Orville NAACP has their MLK Day Community Celebration Service titled Standing Up for Justice, Community Voices. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our 2026 MLK Day keynote speaker, Dr. Afiya Mbilishaka. Dr. Afiya earned her PhD. Yeah, give it up. I'm excited too, listen. So, Dr. Afiya has earned her PhD in clinical psychology from Howard University after completing her undergraduate studies at the University of Pennsylvania. She is currently an assistant professor of Africana Studies and Psychology at Wellesley College and serves as the principal investigator of the Hair Lab with her student researchers. She has published over 20 peer-reviewed journal articles, 7 book chapters, and 3 books, and has presented her work at more than 50 universities and conferences nationally and internationally. She's a former president of the Association of Black Psychologists, Washington, D.C. chapter, and has been recognized as a subject matter expert by both the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives, where she has testified in support of the Crown Act, landmark legislation protecting against hair-based discrimination. She has trained hairstylists around the world to serve as mental health advocates and now leads international cultural and mental health-focused learning experiences. Some of you may also recognize her from her previous presentation here at Worcester from October of 2024, titled Hair Down, Black Mental Health and Hair, as part of her larger psychotherapy work. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Afiya Mbilishaka.
Okay, repeat after me. Love has to be shown through deeds.
Love has to be shown through deeds.
All right, you paid attention. You get an A for the first assignment. So I do want us all to talk a lot. Now you might say, I'm the keynote speaker. I'm supposed to be doing the talking, but I definitely believe in sharing the love today. And so in the theme of love in action, you all are going to be working for this keynote, okay? You're ready? Okay. All right, so the first thing I want you all to, second thing I want you to do is I would love for you all to visually express to me how you show love. Can you do some you can make sounds, so show signs. Okay, I see hugging. Okay. All right, so is that a new one? I've been seeing that. Okay, this is showing love. What else? I notice sometimes in class my students are going, is that showing, did I eat it? I ate? Okay. So is that showing love if I make a good psychology point? Okay, what else? Let me see, what else do we do? Any other signals that I can see the thumbs up, snapping? Okay, what's that? That's that. Half a heart. Oh, okay. Half a heart. Okay, I see it. Any other signs? Okay, let's just do the heart. How are people? Okay, we got some hearts. All right, so I do want to notice with you all, even as you do that heart symbol, did you know this is the Gen Z way of, that's what I didn't know. I didn't know what you were doing. So this is the most modern way of showing love. I don't think my fingers can do it. I'm old school and doing a full heart with my hands. But again, thinking about how we show love can change through time, through different symbols, through different hand gestures, or a general screaming and cheering. I didn't hear that one. Let's do that one. Okay, that actually gave 90s sitcom audience, but I like it. We'll go with that. So again, love in action. So I'm expecting you all to be very active with me today as we celebrate the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. All right, but I definitely want to ground us because I'm mindful of all the other things that are happening in our lives right now, on the news and the media, in different places in this country and outside of this country. So if we could take a second to ground ourselves. So if you could get as comfortable as possible in your chair, loosen your body up, adjust where needed, maybe put your bag down, whatever makes you feel the most comfortable. And I want you to either close your eyes or soften your gaze. Just, hey girl. Soften your gaze so that you don't have to look at me. You can look down or close your eyes. And I want you to start by taking one slow, deep breath in and hold it in. Let the tension build. Now, nice and slow, let it out. And as you exhale, let your shoulders, your jaw, your arms go loose and limp. Notice each inhale and each exhale. Observe your body calming itself by breathing slowly and deeply. You may feel the air in your lips or your nose. You may notice the rise and the fall of your body as you breathe. If other thoughts or images come to mind, gently but firmly push them away. Because right now, your only job is to focus on your breath. In and out, slow and deep. And now I'd like you to set an intention for today. Maybe it's a one-word intention. Maybe it's healing. Maybe it's insight. Whatever word you want to choose. It could be love. But I'd like you to select that, and whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes and rejoin this conversation. I just really wanted us to take that moment. There are so many different stressors, and our nervous system can be extremely active, right? Our nervous system sends and receives messages from our brain to the rest of our body. And so I want you to be able to feel safe here, okay? And so I'm a Black clinical psychologist, Black meaning my ancestors are from Africa. part of the African diaspora, and I'm a clinical psychologist. So psychology, any psychology majors in here? All right, show some love to psychology, right? All right, so we know that psychology is a scientific study of mental processes and behaviors, right? And so when it comes to clinical psychology, in particular, our job as clinical psychologists are to assess, diagnose, and treat any topic related to mental health. And so I studied at Howard University because I specifically wanted to understand Black mental health more deeply. Because at the University of Pennsylvania, anytime Black people came up in psychology classes, it was usually due to a deficit. Something was wrong, that Black men were 6 times more likely to be diagnosed with schizophrenia than other groups, or lower reading grades, or stress levels. And so just to think about the complexity of race and mental health, that I want you all, especially the psych majors, to join me in doing some clinical psychology today. So again, I trained at a historically Black institution so that I could have supervision. So I'm going to show some clients that we're going to assess together. So oftentimes when I meet with a client for the first time, I don't get to see them. They fill out something online, right, an intake form. So before I have any conversation, they usually type something out. And so I'm going to show you a couple of examples of real life people who existed. And we're going to kind of have some thoughts and reactions about these clients. All right, so client number 1. Just looking at the intake form, this client has dyslexia, had an unfaithful alcoholic father that slashed him with a razor when he tried to break up a fight between his parents. He knocked out his own mother's tooth from punching her in the face. I know, trigger warning, but these are true stories. He lost his job because of his spiritual beliefs, and he had several divorces. So this is a person who actually lived. Does anybody know who this might be? Okay. All right, this was Muhammad Ali. Are you familiar with who Muhammad Ali is? Okay, we know him. But people don't often talk about this part of his story, his childhood, his adolescence. And the story is that he punched his mom when he was a baby and knocked her tooth out. They were like, he's gonna be a boxer. So that was a thing that actually affirmed his strength and gift. But are we familiar with who he's standing next to? Louder and prouder. Kwame Nkrumah, who's that? All right, led Ghana's independence, the first president of Ghana, 1957. So to think about that, this was the first country in Africa who gained independence, but Muhammad Ali had this great connection to his African history and culture, but we don't think about some of these traumas. Did anybody know any of those things about him? Okay. The next one, again, trigger warning for this, but this person had an attempted sexual assault when she was a teenager. She was constantly being harassed by the police. She was arrested when she was pregnant, and during that pregnancy and giving birth, she was actually burned with cigarette butts. Has anybody heard this story before? All right, have you heard of Assata Shakur? Okay, Assata Shakur is a freedom fighter. She actually just became an ancestor in September. She was part of the Black Panther Party and then the Black Liberation Army, and she was accused of murdering a police officer, was able to break out of jail and go to Cuba. Are you familiar with her? She has an excellent autobiography that I highly recommend, but again, thinking about how she was able to organize for liberation movements and live free. So look her up if you don't know her, but recent ancestor. All right, client number 3. Again, I just get this information, but these are real life people. This person was judged by appearance and had to prove himself through fist fights. He stabbed a person at a dinner party with a steak knife. He was considered illiterate, even in college, and had violence towards police officers. Anybody have any ideas? ideas about what this could be. I'm sure you know who he is. All right, Dr. Huey P. Newton. Are you familiar? Who is this? Founder of the Black Panther Party, right? The founder of the Black Panther Party, which was hugely influenced by people like Malcolm X and even Martin Luther King, because we know Martin Luther King and Malcolm X shared a lot of the same ideas later in life. But again, we just think about the leadership and liberation work versus some of their early and childhood adverse experiences. All right, client number 4. I hope I'm not traumatizing, but this is the life of a clinical psychologist. So lots of stories, again, just seeing certain notes before you ever meet someone. Okay, for this client, both of her parents died from health issues during childhood. She had a teen pregnancy. Her husband was murdered, actually was lynched. Had a lot of food insecurity, nightmares. She remarried and her second husband cheated on her, and she had significant kidney disease. Does this story sound familiar? Okay. All right, have you heard of Madam C.J. Walker? All right, what do we know about Madam C.J. Walker? First black millionaire, first black female millionaire, first black millionaire. So how did she make all that money? Hair care, right? She had hair products and was able to use this and build a multi-million-dollar business. And so again, we don't always think about these stories, we think about the successes. All right, client number 5. This client, he attempted suicide after the death of his grandmother, and then again, after a death of a close friend. He had a smoking addiction. He was stabbed when he visited New York City. He had multiple arrests, time in jail, violent attacks on his home and family, and even some cases of infidelity. Do we know who this is? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Did we know this? Okay, you didn't know this? So the thing is, I know that growing up, I shared this earlier, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was always in both of my grandmother's homes next to JFK and Obama, right? There was like a shrine towards Dr. King. But never have I heard these things coming from my grandmothers, right? And so to think about, we oftentimes don't lead with people's traumas. We lead with their successes, their degrees, right? Their success, but to also know that we cannot do hero worship either, right? To recognize that everyone has trauma. I appreciate reading autobiographies more than any type of other book because you actually get to hear the full story, right? You get to hear the full story. And so I'm mindful that today we are honoring the legacy and the work of Dr. King, but I don't know if we fully have a grasp on his story, especially as a clinical psychologist, some of these factors. So what I would love for you all to do right now, I see some folks have their phone out. If you have a piece of paper, your phone, I want us to take 2 minutes exactly, and I want us to write down every fact we know about Dr. King. Everything that comes to your mind that you've ever heard in school, from family, saw in a documentary. If you could write down, and yes, there will be a mic for you to share some of these facts. So I'm putting on a 2-minute timer, and I want you to basically write out everything that comes to your mind in terms of something that you learned about what Dr. King said, did. I'm putting on 2 minutes, okay? All right, it's gone. Write that. Keep going. Keep writing. This has been a holiday for the past 40 years. Seconds. All right, you have your notes, you ready to share? Okay, so should I come to you? I come to you, okay. There's another mic, okay. And I don't know about you all, but do you ever play the game Boggle? This is something I play with my family, that you write the words, and then if somebody says the word that you have from that mix, you have to cross it off. So if somebody says your fact, you don't have to repeat it to us, okay? You can share another one. So let's get some hands for a fact or information or what you've learned about Dr. King.
He addressed other faith leaders who were not necessarily Christian.
Okay, show some love. Thank you.
I think he grew up in Georgia.
Okay, is that true? Okay, we're saying that is true. Okay, the servant.
He delivered the famous I Have a Dream speech in Washington, D.C., 1963.
I believe it was in 1967, he gave a speech entitled Time to Break Silence, in which he spoke out against the Vietnam War. He was villainized on all sides for doing so. And in that speech, he bravely said, the greatest purveyor of violence in the world is my own government, and that is something that still rings true.
And this was very controversial at the time, like to speak out against the government in Vietnam specifically was brought a lot of hate, not love, right? I'm trying something new. I don't want to just keep speaking. I want you all to speak.
Montgomery bus boycott, I think in 1957, 56, where Rosa Parks was involved first, and he was a young minister of all of about 26 years old when he was convinced to help lead that.
When the actress who played Uhura on Star Trek, the original series, was considering leaving the show, being the only main black female character on the show, Dr. King himself spoke to her and convinced her to stay in because she was an inspiration to so many, which later led to inspiring the first black female astronaut, Mae Jemison, because she grew up seeing her on TV as a bridge officer in Star Trek.
Okay, Trekkie facts. Oh, I haven't heard that one before. I love it.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s father was a pastor, and he also later went on to become a pastor himself.
Generations, right? Dr. King's father, grandfather, brother were all faith ministers.
Dr. King organized largely through local churches and black social groups. And without that local infrastructure, he would not have made nearly the same impact that he did.
I love that too, that he organized specifically at hair salons and barbershops as well, just to get to where people were at. Others? Well, we could write a dissertation on this, right?
Dr. King's last speech was, "I've been to the mountaintop," which he had in Memphis regarding the sanitation strike.
So on April 3rd.
He got murdered in a hotel through a window, and then also his dad actually grew up in Stockbridge, Georgia.
Yeah, okay, with the Georgia references.
He led a lot of his protests through nonviolent means, as well as civil disobedience.
His protests led to many law changes, and he had connections with the president as well.
So thinking about the signing of the Civil Rights Act.
The FBI was always trying to get him in trouble for something or another.
So I think I've seen something like he received over 30,000 death threats. I don't know how they counted that, but to even think about the complexity of, if I get a negative comment on my Instagram, I get freaked out. Just to think about, again, the sheer amount of people harassing him, and especially the government participating in that. Literally writing him notes, "You should just kill yourself," and threatening his family and these different things. So according to some of his own stories and experiences, he would reach the criteria even of clinical depression in some ways, in terms of the pervasive thoughts, the sleeplessness, and things like that. Does anybody know how his mother passed away? Google this. What's the Wi-Fi situation in here? Can you say, how did Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s mother die?
I feel like I'm cheating because I'm holding a mic. Wasn't she murdered?
His mother was assassinated as well, in a church.
While playing piano, if I remember correctly. Or organ or something.
And then Google this, since people have their phones out. Google, how about this? I'm trying to be mindful of my phrasing. Was the United States government responsible for Dr. King's death? So was there a trial? Was there a case? Yes, there was. Before a court of law, it was proven the United States was responsible for his death. that's not talked about in comparison to him winning the Nobel Peace Prize. Why is that the narrative versus his mom or the responsibility of who killed him? Embarrassed? Who's embarrassed? The government. Other thoughts? About the facts that you all told me were very interesting, but it wasn't necessarily some of the facts that I had showed just now too, right? And so again, thinking about leaning away from hero worship, but to actually being more holistic and knowing someone's full story and even loving someone despite those things. So I love that you all were talking about specific speeches that Dr. King made. One of my favorite speeches that he ever made was the American Psychological Association in 1967. So it was a big deal that he was able to speak there because they wanted to understand what was the social scientist's role in addressing civil rights. And so in Washington, D.C., they invited him, and he started talking about a term that a lot of psychologists use, maladjustment. Maladjustment, meaning that you are not appropriately adjusting to society. There's still a diagnosis of adjustment disorder. That's something I actually give a lot of my clients in terms of if they're really stressed out about something, it's like safer than a diagnosis of, saying, depression or anxiety to some degree in terms of insurance claims. But maladjustment. And he said that psychologists love labeling someone as not adjusting appropriately to their environment. But he also said, I don't want to adjust to this environment. I don't want to adjust to racism. I don't want to adjust to militarism. I don't want to adjust to capitalism. I don't want to adjust to racism. I don't want to adjust to violence. I don't want to adjust to all the crimes of society in this present tense. So he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a creative maladjustment. I'm going to be a creative maladjuster in terms of being able to recognize I don't want to do things a certain way, and I'm going to come up with other solutions. And so creative maladjustment is the refusal to accept unjust or dehumanizing societal structures, channeling disconnect into constructive action for social change, rather than conforming to harmful norms. So this is according to Dr. King. He doesn't necessarily have his doctorate in psychology, but he studied people and their stories and was able to come up with his own term to understand mental health. All right. There's a lot going on already. What day is today? What night? The 19th. So we're only 19 days. You look tired already. Like, I'm 19 days into 2026. I need the mic pass again. I need the mic pass. In terms of, can you all tell me what are some of the major headlines that you've seen in 2026 so far? What is going on with American society, globally, headlines, if you could share some headlines.
The president of Venezuela and his wife was arrested.
Okay. And who's the new president according to the Wikipedia page of Venezuela? It says Trump is the president of Venezuela. Have you looked at the Wikipedia page? It says Donald Trump is the president of Venezuela. Okay. And he got the Peace Prize. Did he get the Nobel? He got the Nobel Peace Prize as well. Just like Dr. No, not just like Dr. King. What else?
On January 16th, ICE agents were indiscriminately attacking observers who were exercising their constitutional rights. And in doing so, a flash grenade went off underneath. There was a Jackson family. 6 people were in the minivan driving home from a basketball game. The flash grenade caused their I'm blanking, sorry, the big pillows that go off when you get hit by something. Airbags, thank you. So it caused the airbags to go off. And the cloud of tear gas infiltrated the car, and it nearly caused the death of a 6-month-old baby. Destiny Jackson had to give the baby mouth to mouth. She said he was just lifeless, like he had foam around his mouth. He had tears coming out of his eyes. So we're dealing with that kind of fascist brutality.
Renee Goodman was shot in the face 3 times.
It was technically New Year's Eve, but a man named Keith Porter was also killed in LA by an off-duty ICE officer.
We can count that as 2026 because it was after midnight, right? Or, yeah.
Civil unrest and protest in Iran.
Other headlines.
I had to pull it up to make sure I wasn't making it up to myself, but an ICE officer admitted to raping a woman in custody.
Say that one more time.
An ICE officer admitted to raping a woman in custody.
These were some terrible headlines, but also it speaks to what is happening just within the past 19 days, right? It makes me think about how still critical Dr. King's agenda, protest, analysis is to present day. There are so many systems that exist that have not been deconstructed that allow for the perpetuation of such violence against so many people across the globe. And so in thinking about sort of all of this hate, and thinking about the theme of love in action, I wanted to give some data from psychology about this opposite sensation and what is actually happening in the brain where we take love to heal what's going on. So in the psychology of love, certain articles I should have had the reference, that 70% of people feel love on a typical day. Who in here felt love today, the feeling love? And 88% say they marry for love, right? There are other reasons, but 88% say they marry for love. And love actually peaks around midlife. Well, we'll say the 40s. So sometimes we think about teenagers being so in love and loving this and that, but actually it increases towards middle age in life where I am. And then 77% believe that love can last a lifetime. Can we get hands? Who believes love with someone can last for a lifetime? So this is what the surveys say. But love is oftentimes connected to certain chemicals in the brain, right? There's a biological basis for the feelings that we have. A lot of the feelings that we have are neurologically located in the amygdala. Say the amygdala. So the amygdala is considered one of the emotion centers, but there are a lot of chemicals such as dopamine. This is the pleasure chemical. Things feel good. Oxytocin, it creates that deep attachment that you have oftentimes between partners, but also parents and children. And then adrenaline can even be considered a love chemical in terms of it triggers that initial rush, that racing heart, those sweaty palms. It actually makes me feel sick thinking about that, but that actually is associated with love, right? When you fall in love, that your body actually has these sensory experiences. And so in pop psychology, it gets more into the concept of love languages. We've heard of love languages before. So love languages, first, let's go through some of them. Words of affirmation. This basically means that you feel most cared for and loved when people use positive words towards you, and you tend to do that towards other people. Who in here connects to that words of affirmation? I love words of affirmation, especially as a psychologist. I'm just like, you're amazing. Okay. All right, the next one, quality time. This means that you actually spend time together, you engage in conversation, you do activities, and you really get to bond. Who in here really appreciates that quality time? Quality time, people, okay. You're a very loving crowd. All right, how about gift giving? So when you can spend weeks or months planning like this perfect gift for a birthday or holiday and put so much intention, like, oh, they're gonna love it. Or when you receive a gift, like, you see me, you get me. Who in here is into gift giving? I'm not as good with that. Okay, there's a lot, you're all friends, okay. All right, and then physical touch, meaning like you wanna hug and snuggle and rock and have that physical connection. Okay, who, physical touch people? I'm a physical touch person. And then acts of service. This means that when you're really struggling with somebody might tutor you in that subject, or they'll give you a ride someplace, cook you food when you're not feeling well, help you clean your house, whatever you might need help with. Who's into acts of service? Okay. But thinking about love in action, it could be any of these, right? Sometimes we think it's about doing a specific task, but we all have preferences and actually skills or are more attracted to people who even have the same love language. And so even going through love in action for today's theme, let's think about how words of affirmation can look even today and all these 2026 topics that you gave. So for example, when people around you feel targeted, whether immigrants or international students, BIPOC folks, classmates, activists, what words do you use? So it's for you to actually think about what is language that you can use when people are sharing their concerns. I wasn't able to go home, back home during the holidays because I can't travel internationally as an international student. What do you do for that friend, that student, even on this campus? Do your conversations protect dignity or reinforce fear, right? In terms of thinking about all that's going on, is it perpetuating to be afraid versus to be able to have a plan or solution? When someone's afraid of deportation, censorship, or losing opportunity, what do you say that gives them strength? And how might your words affirm their human worth, not just your own experience? Does anybody want to answer any of these? Anything, any reactions to how to use words for love in action? Anybody have an example of what to say? Okay. Y'all said you were a love language people, but the words of affirmation folks. But anything, okay.
I don't need a microphone. I have the distinct privilege of working with international students here, so I have these conversations all the time. And we just talk about what they can control, what they can do, and we just reiterate constantly how important they are and how we see them and we value them and we want to, as a community, be supportive of whatever they need. And we have open doors and open conversation, and we just are there for them. We just want them to know that we're there for them and we see them and we, like I said, we value them. But those are just some of the, but it's a lot of listening and hearing and then saying, okay, now what can we control? What are the next steps? What is logical?
Thank you for doing that. It really makes me think about the importance of having a shared understanding. Or have you ever talked to someone and they just really listen, like they understood, like you got me, like to that depth of being cared for? It's not necessarily that things can change, but when you feel understood, there's a level of relief. Like the stress that comes with being an international student, and to really create space and time to listen. That's very, very good. So not even what you say, but how do you listen? I like that. All right, acts of service. Who are the acts of service people? So what are you willing to do when there's no recognition attached? Like, are you doing this just for the good of it, or are you looking to receive something in return? Who benefits from your education right now besides you, right? So you are here at this institution learning and studying, but are you the only person who benefits? How are you taking that information back? Home, family, friends. If love requires inconvenience, what comfort are you most afraid to give up? And are you serving people, or are you serving your resume? Just things to think about, right, in terms of these things that I know I was the worst in high school. I have to admit, I wanted to get into an Ivy League school. I joined every club. I was in Key Club. I was in everything, volunteering. I was cleaning up people's yards. But when I look back, it was sort of resume building versus me actually like engaging authentically in spaces. Does anybody have reactions to acts of service in 2026 and how that could be love in action? Any acts of service, people? Or what you? Was there a hand? Oh.
Yeah, I'd say that one of the most important things in terms of I'd say one of the most important things in really exemplifying love and the actions of service is really trying to understand, get a sense of what is going on around you and of what the culture and the needs of people around you are, and then really making some effort to meet those needs, whether it's on an individual level or on a collective one.
Thank you. Oh, there's another hand.
I think another important aspect to acts of service is people, especially more liberal people, are really focused on having like the perfect mindset. But if you have the perfect mindset and you're, everything's great in your head, but you never go out and actually do anything, then nothing gets better. So even if you maybe are trying to build a resume or whatever, the most important thing is to be doing something that is helping people.
All right, the next one, quality time. Who are you fully present with? Who do you rush through conversations with because their pain makes you uncomfortable? When was the last time you listened without interrupting, fixing, or checking your phone? And what would happen if you stayed instead of distancing yourself? So again, these are things for us to think about in terms of this type of love in action, quality time. Does anyone, for those quality time folks, do you have any thoughts, reactions to what love in action in 2026 would look like through quality time? Okay, there's a
I'd like to give a story. It's one of the most, I guess, one of the things I think is important to recognize is like sometimes really being present is a sacrifice. Being really and can be a risk to yourself. When I was in high school, my junior year, I was doing a reading for a history assignment, and I was waiting for that class to start, and there was a freshman in who was in the class before me. And while I was reading, I was outside the hallway. I heard an altercation going on with between that student and the teacher of that class. That I sort of, at first, I just tried to keep reading, don't want to intrude into something that's not my business. And, I just kept reading and tried to kind of, I'm not here, I'm just, here. But the kid was really pleading, like, with the teacher to just listen to him, in explaining, what was, going on. They had just finished a test, or they were in an exam, and something had, like, a mishap had happened with his technology, and that was sort of, assumed to be a case of academic dishonesty, which and he was, put into disciplinary proceedings and that sort of thing. So it was very scary for him, and I felt that, and I realized that I knew the kid, but more importantly, I could have left. I could have, been like, oh, I do not want to, like, involve myself in this sort of situation that is not, something that's my business or whatever. And I could have left and, went down the hallway and then come back when my class started, but I stayed. And I eventually, I found that, that kid who was there that day really needed my attention. And when he was waiting for, the teachers to really, I guess, make a decision and that sort of thing, he came up to me and, he started talking, and, I just, I put my reading away, and I just, my computer away and stuff, and I just listened to him. I tried to encourage him that, and just let him know that, someone was listening, someone cared, someone believed him when he spoke, and also knew on some level, the content of his character. So, like, so he was able to go, away that day with some level of confidence in, himself that he wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
Thank you. Can we get some snaps? And then can we repeat and say after me, now that's love in action. To take your time and to be present with someone who's clearly distressed and to pay attention to their experience. Okay, I think you still want to say something? Okay, up here.
I wanted to say that, like, when it comes to, like, quality time, I think what most people fail to do is to listen more than they speak. I feel like everyone has certain, like, opinions or even solutions to problems, but when we fail to pause and actually listen to what someone is saying, we miss out on what we actually need to help people with. Because sometimes we can just be going on and on and on and on, but we're missing the important solution that we need to give to the person. And also there's a sort of, like, even when there's discourse between different people, if everyone is talking, there will never be a solution. So there's a certain point where we need to be quiet and listen to what people are saying, and even in the silence, there will be some sort of like understanding, because everyone wants to be heard. Like no matter what, even if you're the most quiet person in the world or the loudest, everyone wants to be heard. So even taking that time to be quiet is also important to help people even like speak about something they didn't want to, or even learn from a mistake that they were like maybe constantly doing. So
yeah, you even combine multiple love languages with that, right? In terms of the words and the quality time, right? We're definitely in a rush. I even think about when it comes to styling hair. In traditional African society, sometimes people would spend days completing one hairstyle. But now it's like, okay, we have to get in and out, get the braiding done, that styling done. But we know that when you're with someone, that you're having this deep connection in those hours of doing hair together. Because how long do those braids take? Oh, it's fast. Okay. But in terms of thinking about like that 3 to 4 hours could really be quality time. And it depends on the stylist you go to or who's the braider, because sometimes it just turn on a movie or you put your headphones in, but thinking about the conversation that can happen in those 3 to 4 hours. Sometimes my husband goes to the barber shop, doesn't even get his hair cut. He just wants to have the conversations and spend time with other people who think and feel like him. All right, then physical touch. When people are protesting, when neighborhoods face raids, how do you express safe touch? Solidarity, clasped hand, a supportive hug, a linked arm in a march, right? Oftentimes we see these images of Dr. King, and he's what? Linked arm in arm with people during certain rallies or protests. Are you willing to be physically present with people even when it costs you comfort, visibility, or social ease? And so when somebody's body feels threatened by policy or law enforcement, how do you send the message, you are not alone? Right? So there are sometimes things that go unsaid. About 70% of our communication is through body language. You've heard that before? About 70% of our communication is through body language. So to even think about how our bodies move, how we touch, how we connect. I see people rubbing each other in the room right now. Show yourself love too. So if anybody has a reaction or reflection to this physical touch, even within 2026 and in social justice, any reactions to physical touch here? People are giving out massages. You should see the audience right now. Got very physical quickly. I hope HR is okay with it.
I think that physical touch, especially now, can not only just be a way to show love and appreciation of each other, but also it can be very grounding, especially in a time where, there's so much misinformation going around, or there's so much craziness in the world everywhere you look, and you just need something in your life that feels real and solid. Being able to reach out to a person and feel a person next to you, or be able to understand that someone is there, and it's a nice connection to have, and really grounding, and helps to keep you in the moment. Especially I know for me, if I'm struggling mentally, sometimes it can just be really good to hold someone's hand, or just to feel a little bit more in the moment, and not so much in my head. So it's a really big help to just be able to connect with other people on that level.
What I have to say about physical touch is, of course, there are all these different love languages, and yours might be physical touch, but whoever you're trying to console or connect with, their love language might not be physical touch. So remember to always ask permission before you touch.
Yes, absolute consent is a must. Thank you for emphasizing that, right? Consenting to physical touch. Any other reactions, reflections, touch? All right, so what are the 5 5 love languages? It sounds like you got them all. All right, it sounds like you got them all. So, but to really think about that, again, the topic of today being love in action, that it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to write an op-ed piece if that's not the way that you express love in action. It's maybe you do somebody's hair consenting, do someone would braid their hair after it. I remember one time that my husband was arrested for false charges, but after he just wanted to take a really long shower and then I did his hair, if that makes sense. Like something that was, we didn't talk, but that sensation. And it's really good to think about how to assess other people's love languages, right? In terms of what do you need right now? Do you want me to listen? Do you want a hug or hand holding? Do you want just to watch Netflix? I think you all debated about which shows to watch on Netflix. Do you want to watch Netflix, or do you want, just again, thinking about how to incorporate these different love languages into love and action. And then gift giving. What do people receive after interacting with you? Do you leave with hope? Do they leave with hope or more weight than they came in carrying? What gifts do you withhold because you underestimate their value? And what vision of the future are you helping others imagine? So it's not just about giving physical things, but again, like the wisdom or the energy that you expel are all important. I want to be mindful of the time. So we have to navigate this dilemma we face even here at Wooster on campus. Although this is its own entity and has its own culture and vibe at the school, I love it, by the way, we have to be mindful that it exists within a certain administration and government structure. And as members of this academic community, we have the privilege and the responsibility to channel our love into action. Our role is to engage in informed dialogue. How many people went to the dialogues today? A lot of people. To challenge injustices where we see them, and to support one another in the pursuit of an equitable future. Now, this might look differently for students versus faculty and staff versus administrators. Can I get a show of hands of who's students in here? All right, faculty and staff, and then administrators. Okay, represent in the back. So even in thinking about this, okay, I've only been here for like less than 24 hours, but I've gotten a few flyers for like an anti-ICE protest, right? But to think, what does participation look like for a student versus a faculty or staff member or an administrator? It all looks a little bit different, right? In terms of the potential consequences, the rules, the structures. But for us to think about what does love and action look like even based on your university status. And so we all, again, have a responsibility. There are things governing us, but to be mindful too about why certain laws have been created, right? To literally create a certain narrative of how we should be living. So with that, I'll conclude. This is my last slide. I definitely want us to think about love and action, but to finally close out with how I started, that love has to be shown by deeds. All right, thank you all so much.